I lost a ton of money trying my first business as well. So,
Yeah, I lost 300K, not
oh
100K.
my goodness.
Yeah, I said hundreds of thousands. So
Straight to the top. Just put the sec on the clock. I am Rihanna's a shot. I'm going straight to the top.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Mike here with the Sports and the Real podcast coming at you once again. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and share and tell a friend and tell a friend and tell a friend. It's great to be back in the seat. Don't forget to check out the website, sportsandthereal.tv, sportsandthereal.tv if you haven't been. Make time to go there. Got a special guest to talk today. So I've been telling y'all I've been lining up some interesting topics. I'm putting together a series around financial wellness, financial health, how we can grow financially, become wealthy, right? The goal, at least one of the main goals, right, of my podcast is to make sure that my audience doesn't just sit around and talk sports all day, but you guys can actually, get something out of it. And what interests me probably the most nowadays is money, making money, becoming financially well off, financial freedom, and wealth. So tonight's conversation, I have a special guest with me, Babar Asad, to talk a little bit about entrepreneurship, and how you can break free from your job if that is your desire. Um, as I watch and learn more about, wealth and making money and things like that, I've learned, right, and read, like, you really can't be truly wealthy if the only time you make money is when you're working. When you're working for somebody else, right? Because that person is not truly going to set you up to be wealthy like that. You at some point you have to own something, and owning a business is one of the great ways you can do that. You can truly scale up your money. So wanted to have this conversation with Babar here, who's an entrepreneur himself, get some guidance, some advice, and, just some tips on, how you guys, my audience, can make the transition from where you are now to where you want to be through entrepreneurship. So long intro here. Babar, welcome to the show, man.
thank you for having me, Mike. Very good intro. Sports and money for me goes hand in hand also. Since I've grown up as a sportsman and I've shifted in the last decade or so to making money, learning how to make money while you're asleep, honestly. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you talk about making money while you're asleep. So how did you get started? Talk to us about how did you get started in entrepreneurship, right? Some people like say, well, I've been an entrepreneur all my life, and I consider myself a late bloomer to this entrepreneur space. How did you get started in entrepreneurship?
I think I've always, again, it's a split, right? Some people are more born entrepreneurs, born leaders, and some people slowly learn and navigate their way through it. And both types have been very successful. And there's no bias against anyone. But I was always trying around things. Growing up, I was selling whatever I could in school, and then in college, I had some college little entrepreneurship projects and side hustles to make money. So I feel I was always playing around with stuff. After a couple of sales job, I realized that if I can sell for somebody else, I can sell for myself. I did a finance degree in my bachelor's, and then I did a marketing degree in my master's. But I realized that selling is what selling is what runs the world. And if you can sell for somebody else, you can sell for yourself. And I did not have a oh my god moment that something broke out and I came up with this $1 million idea. I started. I failed my first big boy venture. Wasted a few $100,000 of very, very hard earned money on that venture. And then from that, I learned a few things. I got lucky with a few other things, and I began one of my current companies, which is called iTitans. I think that was my first big successful company, you can say. And from there, it's been an interesting journey. Starting in entrepreneurship is one thing, and navigating through the challenges and staying on it is another thing. So I feel my start was not so tough, but besides the losses I had, but the staying on track and staying motivated, that is what differentiates most of the people who don't stay on it and quit within the first 3 to 5 years. There's a big stat that 95% people quit in the first 3 to 5 years. So I'm
Yeah.
glad I'm past that stage, and that was the most tricky part.
Yeah, I was gonna say that most businesses fail within 5. So you lost 100 grand. You down with telling us what exactly you tried and failed at? Because I'm kind of in the same boat. I lost a ton of money trying my first business as well. So
Yeah, I lost 300K, not
hey,
100K.
my goodness.
Yeah, I said hundreds of thousands. So it was over a period of like 2.5 years. So it didn't feel so bad at that time. But it was very hard earned money. I had some savings from my previous jobs, and then I was really hustling at that time. So I wouldn't mind losing that amount now to learn what I learned back then. But
Yeah.
back then it was a big amount for me. Um, it was a platform called Influencer Hub. I began too quickly. I jumped into technology. That was my first technology venture. I jumped into technology without knowing how much effort it takes to build technology. So there was a learning curve on the technology side, and also a learning curve personally. It was my first proper business in the US after I migrated, a few years before that. So I think from very different standpoints, I had a lot of learnings, a lot of failures, a lot of things that I didn't do properly. The platform could not survive because of very, very big companies being in competition and me being a very small player, and also me trying to build something perfect and then trying to go to the market. So these are my two main takeaways, when it comes to my first failed venture.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask, what did you learn from that experience that's helping you right now? And you talk about not trying to build the whole thing before going to market. I think that's a mistake, that I've made in the past, and I try to avoid now is, all right, what is the right MVP, right? To get out there, let people try it out, get some feedback. And the thing is, and this is the problem, right? And this is why I have this podcast. Nobody teaches you these things, right? No, nobody tells you, hey, so you don't waste $300,000, like do this and this, right? And then spend the money, and then spend money on ads. Like I didn't lose 300. I might have lost like maybe 50, $60,000. Me trying our own business. So, I mean, my first business was so I used to travel a lot for work. I worked as a business consultant. I used to travel a lot. And I used to find it real kind of nasty to have put my shoes that I've worn in my suitcase, right? Traveling through the airport, going into these nasty bathrooms, and then putting. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna create something that's going to, sanitize your shoes, whatever, so you could put them in your suitcase or whatever, right? I spent a lot of money, working with different companies, like eventually I ended up losing a lot of money, wasted a lot of time, and honestly, I started doing much better towards the end of it. But by then I had lost so much money that I couldn't recover, right? So I had to go back into the workforce and do all that. But the lesson, I learned from that was, you got to know your market, right? What is the market size? And when you're introducing a product, right, are you teaching the market about the product and you're teaching the market about this product and your product? Meaning, like, if I'm introducing soda, for those who aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, if I'm introducing a new brand of soda, like, I don't have to tell people what soda is. They already know what soda is. I'll just have to teach them about my product. But if you have to teach people why you have to sanitize your shoes and here's a new product to do it, that's two different levels of teaching that you probably may not want to undertake unless you're financially backed, right?
Yeah.
So I wasn't aware of that. So again, all these things I learned towards, by the time I got towards the end, that I'm applying now in the ventures that I'm building. But yeah, it's tough, man.
Yeah. I know. This was one of my learnings too. Back then, 2017, 2018, influencer marketing was not a huge thing. Especially for smaller business owners. There was a learning curve for them about influencer marketing. And then there was learning curve about my product. So I had to, 2x all my efforts for marketing for these business owners to learn about it. And my this learning carved into go in an industry where people actually know about what you're offering, and then they can know about your product. So, I mean, we always try to come up with something unique because we think people will find it very unique. But in the end, if there's a lot of demand, there's going to be more suppliers. So you shouldn't run away from places where there's competition, because then there's more chances that people already know about the industry, the services, and they have a good knowledge base already. So that makes your job easier if you go into a little more saturated industry. One of my other learnings was not to get too emotionally involved, in your products. And being a first product, you treat it as a baby. I was too emotionally involved. I would have spent half the amount or wasted half the amount if I had not been too emotionally involved in that product. And that comes from, again, it's a first timer sort of failure thing, but it comes from just working day in day out on something like that. And the learning, now comes down to, hey, how much emotion should be involved? There needs to be emotion in business, but how much emotion can there be in business? So that's another thing that I learned the hard way while building Influencer Hub.
Yeah. So when you say emotionally involved, you mean you were like, you should have given up on it sooner, or what? What do you mean by that?
It was just too tough to give up on it. How if your kid is not doing well in something, you always want them to be successful, right? So I think I related to that same thing, that I just wanted to be successful. I was not willing to accept failure. I was not Obvious signs of failure were not enough for me. Obvious practical and business signs of failure were not enough for me to move on quickly. I think you win in business if you move fast, and I was not being able to move fast enough because I was emotionally attached to the product, to certain features, to certain type of strategy that I had about the product. So yeah, I think these things make a lot of difference in the longer run when they add up.
Yeah, we can go on. We can go on about this topic for 2 hours, man. Because I feel like you're talking to me, because that's the same thing I went through with my product. I felt like I wanted to succeed with this product, and I was. And you read about people, their first product hits and they're making millions of dollars. And you're like, man, my product has to work. Like, what am I doing wrong? And you're spending more money. I'm spending money on Facebook ads and, this and that. And Google ads is like just drinking up my money. And I don't care. I'm going to make it work. And eventually, like, you don't realize, when to pivot, right? And some people are gonna be like, yeah, but you can pivot too soon. It's true. But sometimes there are some obvious markers, like you said, that can be like, look, man, it's time to shift, whether it's a product, whether it's a strategy, whatever it is, it's time to shift. And like you, I avoided those signs for too long because I had to make my product work. And eventually, that was the death of me, to say.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's happened to so many business owners, and not even first timers. It's a thing across decades of business. Even you hold on for too long. For me, one more thing was I was too focused on my own vision, my own narrow road. I didn't see all these opportunities on the left and right. My road was tough and rocky and sunny and hot, and I had these cool shades, trees along the way that I could have sort of rested and taken some money, taken some, good leverage off, used them, and kept going. If I had focused a little left and right, had open eyes and ears, I think it would have been better for me to sustain my product. But yeah, these are all things that we look in the past and learn and move forward.
Yeah, definitely, man. Yeah, I try not to spend too much time thinking about those days, but yeah, I spent about 3 years. I spent about three years building and failing, but it's helped me a lot now. So let's pivot a bit, because I don't want to be here all day talking about this thing, and because we can. So we talked about, you know again, you're an entrepreneur. One of the things, ways you give back, like I give back through this podcast, is you help younger entrepreneurs, you help entrepreneurs kick things off, get things started. talk to us a little bit about that when you say you help entrepreneurs kick things off. In what ways are you able to help people, who want to make the jump into entrepreneurship, into entrepreneurship? In what ways do you do that?
Yeah. Before I begin in what ways, I would quickly, tell how it began. So
Yeah.
this was a natural transition. I had people coming up to me in the last 5 odd years, just asking for advice. Can be very, very small, specific thing, like how do I do my Google ads in this industry, or how do I use this form of go to market, or how do I build this sort of product, how do I research, how do I stay on track. Very small things, and then also very general, topics, and very general mindset things that they came up to me with. So I realized that yes, I'm helping these people. I would help them once and they would disappear. I would help them once, they would disappear, and they would go into their own shell, because they're people who are not really close to me. They're just random people off the internet, right? I don't really know about them. Yes, some would have
Mhm.
some mutual connections and all, but usually it's just random people. Um, so what I figured out about 3 years ago was that why not create a little process to this madness and try to help out people for a longer term. It also came from me being me going through this myself, when I was building, and not having anybody to, number one, talk to, number two, take advice from, or number three, just share stuff with. It becomes lonely when you're trying to build something, and also when you're an outlier. For me, coming to the US, a lot of my social circle is people who have jobs. People from my ethnic background is people usually play it safe. They have jobs. They don't try out entrepreneurship till they've sort of made it, after 10, 12, 15 years. So around me, I had nobody, honestly, in my circle who was
Yeah.
trying to start this young. People were doing jobs. I was doing a job myself for some bit before, jumping into this. So I was lonely when I started this. I remember I used to drive a lot of Uber, and a lot of times, if I got a good ride in Uber, somebody who's a business owner, I would just keep talking to them for, even when the ride finished, I would ask them for more and more time, because these thoughts I couldn't get across with people. Um, so it gets lonely. That's number one. A lot of things that you learn just over time are things that you can easily pass on. And yes, some people will not learn it. Some people will learn it the hard way. But most of the people will try to learn from you, especially when they come to you. So what I did was I created a small group where I would take people in on a continuous basis till they don't need me anymore. So I would get them in. A lot of what I work with them is mindset, is motivation and mindset, and how to not give up. A big thing that comes from sports, right? And we can talk about it later on. But it comes from just mindset. A lot of people have different mindset issues. They mix. As an entrepreneur, your personal and professional life is always mixed, especially as a small entrepreneur. So a lot of the issues that I help people with end up being personal. They're not even professional anymore. Especially mindset issues. Hey, my dad wants me to do this. My mom wants me to do this. My girlfriend wants me to do this, etc., etc., etc. My friends are doing this, and I was doing a job that was giving me this much, and so many things that are just mindset, not even about your product or service. And then it comes down to the next step, which is the product or service. So a lot of work that I do, 60-70% is around mindset and personal issues that people have while being on this journey. And then comes the actual product and service, which is very different for different people. People are too scared to take risk. They become too comfortable in their product and service. Oh, I'm earning, 10K a month. I think that's enough for me. I don't need to try something extra. How to change in the right way, how to hire and delegate in the right way, um, how to go to a new market in the right way. That's a very, very risky thing, and that people get scared of doing that. But there's great opportunities if you open your mind up to new markets. And I did that, like, from coming to another to the US, right? It opened up my mind so much more about products and services. Now I always try to take product and services from one market to another. That's very easy because you've already been successful in one market. So there's a bunch of things, but these are some of the common ones that I mentioned to you, that come across. The biggest one, if I had to point out one, is just continuously staying on track and not giving up. That is what I help people with mostly.
Yeah. So, so you say not giving up. So how do you help people balance this not giving up with, like we talked about, staying with something too long?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, each person is different, right? usually the people I'm working with are people who started off, the first couple of years of business. At that time, I think mostly it's not been too long, and a lot of people have things in which they give up instead of being too long in business. That's another category that I also work with, who've been too long at a certain thought or a certain standpoint. But mostly people I work with are people who give up too quickly. There comes a point where there's indicators, and as a mentor, as a coach, you have to identify those indicators. I always think most of the things in life that I've learned go back to sports. Growing up, my coach would tell me if I played cricket growing up, right? And my coach would tell me if a certain shot that I have is good to play or not good to play. I would get out on that shot. I would get runs from that shot. So it was a risk and reward thing. How to balance that out? Um, so now I think as a coach, as a mentor, my job is to help them manage these risks about different business strategies and different marketing techniques and different building techniques. And it's very subjective to each person in each industry. There's no one rule of thumb that you have for this.
Okay. That's cool. What do you see people struggle with the most? As a young, you in the game, like what would you say is the one thing you talk about, maybe giving up too quickly, but let's say I'm, just starting out, I'm coming to you, like most likely 9 out of 10 times, you're like, what do you see young entrepreneurs struggling with the most that you're like, you gotta change this or you're not gonna make it?
Yeah. I think absorbing the right type of information, absorbing and processing the right type of information, that's a big thing for young entrepreneurs, especially people under 30. Um, we have so many sources of information these days that it's very easy to be misinformed. There's a fine line between
Yes.
there's a fine line between opportunity and something that misleads you and a distraction. So all these data sources, information sources that you're getting as a young entrepreneur, and your mind is running super fast and you're high on energy, you want to process all of these and act on all of these,
Mm-hmm.
or sometimes be stuck and act on none of them. So as a young entrepreneur, the biggest challenge I feel is absorbing the right information, what to take in, what to cut out, and then how to act on the right information, how to identify an opportunity and a distraction. And there's again no rule of thumb that can be so tough, even for anybody who's had experience. So I think that's the toughest thing I've seen young entrepreneurs struggle with, and they don't even realize that. That's the worst part. Most you don't even realize that this might be the root cause of a lot of mental, emotional, actually practical business problems that you're having. Is the source of this, the misinformation is the source of this.
Yeah. If I were to answer that question now that I've been at this for a while and I'm learning more and I've talked to people, I will say the biggest thing for people just getting into entrepreneurship is trying to do everything themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is true. You do have to do a lot of things yourself. But finding the right coaches, advisors, right? Just things like that. Just someone who you could, talk to get advice from, right, is very important to success. So one of my friends I was talking with, because he's in entrepreneurship space as well. And he gave me some great recommendations. And one of the books he told me to read was a book called Who Not How. um if you ever read that book, you got to read that book. And it talks about how both of us, even as athletes, even though sports are really it's team sports, right, for the most part, except for golf or something like that, but basketball, football, cricket, like most things are team sports. But somehow we get into entrepreneurship and we feel like we got to do it all alone. And because, when we're working, we're judged on our own merit, right? What did you accomplish, right, to get this raise? What did you do? And we kind of carry that over to entrepreneurship. So then it becomes, we feel like we have to do everything ourselves to the point where, even when you do start to be successful and it's time to hire somebody or whatever, you may not want to because you want to do it all yourself. So I will say, learning to get help. It's okay to get help. Other people in the book, it talks about leveraging other people's brains, right? Because they may think of something that you don't think about. That's something I try to, think about often as I'm going through my own ventures now is, how can I, what do I need and who can help me get there? Who can answer this question to help me get an answer faster, right? So I would answer that question and say, you know, young entrepreneurs struggling on their own and trying to do everything independently is one of the biggest problems and really can lead to failure, more often than not, because you're so stuck trying to do things your way and I'm going to make this thing successful, as opposed to seeking out help, seeking out advice. People can help you carry the load and help you get to where you want to be faster than just you trying to do it by yourself. What you think about that?
Yeah, man. This is again one big thing, probably really top up there in my list. And I can again, all the thing I can talk about for hours. But what I've noticed very interestingly is that between the East and West, it's very different. In the eastern part of the world, people are lazy. People want to get help. People want to delegate tasks because they've grown up a little lazy and they've grown up around house help and drivers and this and that.
I was
So
wondering
they,
where you were going when you said lazy.
it's just you have and even growing up for me personally, right? I have a big family, so I had a bunch of cousins and siblings. So I would try to just pass on tasks to them, get work done from them, even as simple as get me, a soda from the fridge or whatever. Um, so this becomes inculcated in our mindset that hey, whatever you can pass on, and keep those people happy. So I've seen them delegate under them very much more effectively, whereas in the West, people don't do that because people have grown up by themselves. They've grown up to be independent. They've grown up. Most of the people, again, there's the differences, but they tend to do everything themselves. Hey, it's my job. I'm going to do it. Mowing my lawn, I'm going to do it. Fixing my car, I'm going to try to do it, etc., etc., etc. So the mindset is a little different. On the other hand, hiring and coaching and learning is better in the West. Again, there's so much more that we can do, but I see more people try to learn, try to go and ask others for help and learning. There's less ego, there's less um, resistance when it comes to that. And on in the East, I've seen people not even have this concept. I didn't have a concept. I thought, oh, I'm a business person, I can do it myself. Because I've not seen my other generation, my older generation who's successful in business, grow up with a lot of mentors and advisors, and especially on the business side of things. I've seen personal advisors and mentors, but not on the business side. For example, my father's mentor throughout his life was somebody who was not in his business, was very far off. It was a spiritual leader of sorts. Growing up, my advisor and mentor, and even to date, one of my biggest one is my cricket coach. He didn't even go to high school. He cannot tell me anything about business, but I've learned so much from him. So I think these are the two very interesting differences I've seen in the East and West. I talk hugely about the importance of delegation, the importance of having a good assistant. From day one, funny story, I had an assistant when I was even driving Uber. You know, so even at that time, I hired a very cheap offshore person to work as an assistant for me because I thought that person would get the job done faster than I would do, and I could earn more doing Uber in the US. So, so yeah, for sure, I'm a big advocate of delegating and passing things on as much as you can.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's a struggle in entrepreneurship, and it makes it even harder. It's Entrepreneurship is hard and it's challenging and it can be scary, but it's even scarier when you're trying to do it all by yourself. You talked
Yep.
about losing 300K going at it alone. Maybe if you had spoken with a couple people and taken a couple people's advice, maybe that doesn't happen. I feel like the same thing with me. Like if I had actually sought out people and tried to learn from other people and advice, and maybe I don't lose $50,000, and things turn out much differently. So um that's yeah, that's it for me, man. Another thing you do when in helping, you help people, you said, who are stuck in corporate jobs. um Talk to us a little about that angle, right? So there's the young guy who's, gung ho about being an entrepreneur, and then there is like somebody like me, family guy, right? Who may not really be loving, corporate life and is trying to transition. Talk to us a little bit about that space, how you help people.
Yeah, for sure. Um, for starters, I think this also begins from people not being able to do it when they were younger. That desire already is there, always is there. Most people have that desire, but they want to play it safe for whatever reason. Everybody has a different personal situation, and then they go into this rat race, that is the corporate, and they never come out. This idea came, or this, not in the idea, it started from naturally a lot of my ex-colleagues, a few of them much more senior than me, always reaching out to me after a few months, after a few years. Hey, I want to get something done. I want to start something of my own. Help me start something of my own. This would be a pattern every 6 months, every 9 months, every 1 year with these people. I have money. These people are very smart. Corporate people are usually very, very smart. They're smarter than entrepreneurs mostly. If you, I don't know, weigh them on a IQ level or some other scale, they would be
You think
smarter
so?
than. Yeah,
You
yeah,
think
for
so?
sure. Yeah, man. Yeah, you get rusted over time, but most of these people are really smart. At least the people that I've worked with, they're really smart, man. They have a lot of skills, a lot of hard skills. Us, we just know how to mostly talk well and sell well, you know, tell stories. And these people are people with technical skills. They're more disciplined than you. They get up on time and go on time and dress well, etc., etc., etc. So I feel bad when they're not being able to get themselves unstuck. And again, that leap is very tough for some people because of personal situations. Um, but I feel that's how it started. And now what I do, again, this is a mix of my own learnings and what these people bring up to me, is help them transition in a more safer way. You don't have to leave your job. You don't have to work 40 hours a week. Start with something small. Start with something that makes you some money. For them, it's always going to be how much I'm making safely per month versus how much I'm making right now. At a certain point, okay, I'm making 60, 70% regularly without a lot of fluctuations. Now I can shift. So they played more risk averse, most corporate people, they just tuned that way. And yeah, it's a more deeper discussion. A lot of them have really good connections that you can leverage and use when you're starting business. I teach them how to use those connections properly, how to make sure that there's no conflict of interest, how to make sure they're able to give the right time. Can be your 6 to 10, can be your couple of days on the weekend. Every person is different, but I teach them how to slowly shift to entrepreneurship instead of that jump that initial young entrepreneurs have. And I've seen a lot of people do it successfully. They value your time more. They can act faster. They know shortcuts. They're very smart, as I said, with tools and technologies, usually very up to date, very disciplined. So these factors help as a coach, as a mentor, getting these people in. It's more of an emotional, psychological barrier that you have to help them cross.
Yeah. Listen, you've mentioned this a couple of times, so I gotta ask this. So you talk about being a good salesman, right? Entrepreneurs are good salesmen. I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't think I'm a great salesman at all. What do you say to that, to someone who says, I have a product, I have a great idea, I think it'll work, but man, I don't think I'm that great of a salesman at all.
Um, that's very natural, right? A lot of people, especially people who are, I've seen introverts, they think they're not great salesmen. Um, the beauty of today's world is there's so many ways of selling. There's so many ways of selling. As a founder, as a creator, you are the one who can always tell a better story. Who can always narrate that story in a good way about a product, about a service. But you don't always have to do it yourself. You can have somebody help you narrate that story. It has to come from you. It has
Mm-hmm.
to come from you. The vision, the strategy, the basis of storytelling has to come from you. Somebody else can be rented out, to help you translate it in the right channel. But I think these days, the beauty of digital marketing and digital media is that you can be in your garage or your home office or wherever, and you can still try to sell by just conversations. You don't have to talk to a lot of people, to sell. Back in the day, it was always door knocking and outbound and stuff like that. Now with the right strategies, again with the right type of people that you work with, you can have inbound strategies. Inbound, I feel inbound selling is not really selling even. It's very easy. If somebody's coming up to you to ask about a product, anybody can tell that person about that product. um, so work with the right people, work with the right salespeople, and get a strategy that can align with your personality. And I think that's for everything. Anything you find hard, work with people who can do it better. Make sure that your vision and their vision matches and it translates, and it converges after a certain time. It cannot diverge. The vision, the strategy, the methods cannot diverge. If you don't like knocking on doors, your sales strategy cannot be outbound. It has to be inbound. So, yeah, I think naturally just working with the right people will give you that leverage. But I personally feel every founder is a salesperson. It's just how to bring that side out in the right way with the right tools. And luckily now we have a lot of right tools.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of tools, AI is like taking over. AI is a big thing. I'm reading a lot about AI now. It's probably been like 8-9 months since I got put on to AI, which I feel like is a couple years too late. But everything is AI now. All the big valuations, big companies are AI companies now. First of all, what are your thoughts on that? Right, with AI, seemingly, every business is AI. How would you say, okay, you don't have to start a business with AI? What would you recommend to someone who's looking at it? Man, do I have to do an AI related business to make money around here?
Yeah, yeah. I have two thoughts on this, and they're a little different than each other, so it's funny, but depends on the situation you're in, right? AI can be AI has to be your friend, not can be, but has to be your friend, or else it will become your enemy. By that I mean that you have to adapt to AI and what's coming our way. For each person is different though. For each business is different. For a wholesaler who has still a pen and paper sort of business, I cannot expect him to have AI in his business. He has so many more levels to cross before he can reach AI. For a person that is doing content creation as a business, for them for sure, AI is a no-brainer right now. Um, so one, it has to be a friend or else it will become your enemy. And two, on the other side, you cannot push AI into your life. It has to come naturally. And I speak that from a technical standpoint, being a tech entrepreneur, and also from a general usage standpoint. If for whatever reason you're still happy with Google searches and you don't want to jump to chat GPT search because that floats your boat in the right way for whatever personal professional need, keep doing that. Slowly you might feel left behind, but again, if it's floating your boat, if your business does not require that AI search and that AI tool and that AI boost, you don't really need to force it in your life. And on the technology side, I've seen a lot of my clients ask for AI products when they don't really need it. They're at a very basic stage. They don't really need AI. So I don't push it. I don't force it, but I stay up to date. I stay very relevant. The good part about AI now and with all these B2C AI applications is that it's a part of your daily life, right? You can talk to it. You can upload stuff. You can text. You can do so many things that make it very easy to integrate on an ongoing basis. So if somebody tells you cannot start a business without AI, it's true for very few industries. It's going to be true for more industries, but it's never going to be a totally true statement.
You don't see, you're not on the boat of AI taking over the world and making everyone obsolete. I have differing thoughts on them. I have differing thoughts on that, right? There is one, like you said, there is one side of me. I'm like, damn, AI could, if they really wanted to, like AI could really take over everything. And then I'm like, well, this is a capitalistic society. Like people have to make money to be able to keep society running, right? Or it all falls apart because the robots ain't gonna be stupid enough to spend money on the stuff we spend on. So that's one side of me, right? That AI can do everything, and the other side of me is like, you know, can AI really do everything like that? Like, I mean, can AI really surpass humans like that? I mean, at some point, the human has to program the AI, right? So the human is always gonna know more than the robot, right? even as I was just reading earlier, Bill Gates and Bezos are like putting heavy money into like robotics companies or whatever. So it's gonna come a point where it's like iRobot, right? Like we're maybe fighting the robots. I don't know. Like where do you stand on that like spectrum of AI taking over everything? Because a lot of people do fear that AI is gonna take over every job. I mean,
Yeah.
I read that there's companies, at least one company I read where AI is like they tried AI as their CEO. And I'm
Hmm.
like, if AI can be your CEO, then what job is safe at this company, right? But then,
Yeah.
there's the other spectrum. Where do you land on that?
Um, Technically, I think AI can take over the world, but realistically, practically, I think that's not possible. There's going to be regulations. There has to be regulations. There has to be environments. There has to be controls, and already there are. Already they're starting already. Um, because humans don't want to be obsolete, right? Humans don't want to have AI control them. Nobody
Yeah.
wants that, even the evil people don't want that. Even the people who have, brains working on the wrong side don't want that. They always want to keep that control. So I think there's going to be regulations. There's going to be environments where we play the AI and the AI doesn't play us. And with that being said, I do think um, these controls have to come sooner than later. These regulations have to come sooner than later because AI is becoming technically very, very smart. And the more it becomes physical robotic AI, the more chances there are of, danger and of negative things happening. Um, there's always going to be a few types of things that humans will own and humans will operate on, probably 10 to 20%. But besides that, everything AI can take over. And for that, we need the right types of regulations, environments, legal frameworks.
Yeah. Do you see a point where AI is actually embedded in humans? So then it's not it's not AI versus humans, it's humans supported by AI. AI boosted humans.
Yeah, and that's already going on, right? That's not something that is not being tested or not being worked on. These chips and these trackers and all these companies coming up with technology to technically aid us become more efficient are already going on. I was reading about, I think Microsoft is investing in that, or some big company, which is, they can read your thoughts. AI can read your thoughts and actually take action on your thoughts. Um,
I
a
think
lot
I
of
saw that.
a lot of these episodes of Black Mirror that we see and get scared of are actually things being developed and worked on by really, really big companies. Again, it's going to come down to how much you can regulate that, because technology can do all these things,
Mhm.
but how much can you regulate? That's what's going to matter.
Yeah. So what do shifting back to entrepreneurship, what do you tell somebody then, right? They're new to the game, they're new to entrepreneurship. And again, the news is telling them that AI is going to do everything. Like how would you advise somebody in this environment, 2025, to get started, understanding that a lot of stuff that you're bringing to market, AI can do it now for somebody, right? So it's like you can't, for example, right? It's hard to pitch somebody and say, "Hey, let me run your Facebook ads for you," right? 10 years ago, people made a lot of money saying, "Let me run Facebook ads for you," digital marketing. It's hard to do that now because AI can do it, right? Facebook is pretty much, set it and forget it now, pretty much. How would you advise somebody as a coach to say, "Hey, we know AI is taking over, right? But you can still do X, you can still position yourself to do things that AI can do, or AI can assist you to make it better." Like, how would you advise somebody who's a little bit scared, a little bit nervous because they're scared that AI is, can basically do their idea for them?
Yeah, yeah. If I had to advise young people right now, people under 30, I'd focus on three main things. One is that misinformation part. Make sure you're absorbing the right information, and make sure you're physically, mentally, emotionally at your best, or at best as best as you can be, because that will make you a long term player, and make you more, in the game. Secondly, very importantly, be lazy. There's a lot of tools, there's a lot of things that will come easily if you're lazy. If you are lazy, you want to always find the right types of um,
What?
the right type of shortcuts to make things work. And when I say lazy, I mean a combination of ambitious and lazy.
Yeah.
You can't be just lazy and chilling in your sofa and not doing
Yeah.
anything. But the combination of ambition and laziness is a very deadly combination to be in right now because of all the things that are coming out. Number 3, very importantly, have the right sort of human connections. We're in an interesting age because the older generation, the generation with money, are 40 plus successful entrepreneur. Most of them are scared, don't have time, don't want to jump into this AI revolution a lot. Yes, some are 10-20% are, but mostly if you see traditional businesses, there's a huge chunk that is not wanting to go into this even. They want to have their next 10-15 years and retire and chill on a beach or do whatever they want to do.
Mhm.
As a younger entrepreneur who can understand all of this, you don't have to invent a lot of things. You don't have to be a creator. You can be this middle party that can help these people with money, be more efficient, save time and money, or make time and money while being a middle person, which comes from that laziness and ambition part to sort of navigate the next few years, the next decade even. So if I had to choose a career for somebody right now, it would be somewhere in the mix of getting these traditional businesses and these people AI and tech enabled, and earning your chunk in the middle. That chunk can be equities, can be profit, can be fixed compensation, whatever. But there's a lot of money on the table if you can do these right human connections, be lazy and ambitious, and keep your mind, emotion, your heart, and your body in the right shape for a longer time.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Because I was gonna ask, so you went there. Let's talk about like a real life, let's say example, right? You say, somebody who can connect existing business owner and help them transition to AI. Like let's talk about like let's walk through a real world example. I'm coming to you, right? I'm like, hey man, I'm trying to get into entrepreneurship. I don't know what to do. Like, how would you walk me through that process?
Some
What
people
would your
come up.
advice?
Some people come up to you with ideas, and some come up with just, I want to do something of my own.
Yeah.
What type are you?
So typically I have my own ideas, right? But let's say I don't have an idea, right? So I'm like a blank slate. I just say, man, look, I'm tired of working for somebody else. I want to go on my own. What do I do?
I think the first and foremost thing, if I had to advise somebody like that, usually, honestly, most people come up with an idea or an industry or some sort of thing to me, But let's say somebody coming blank, I would literally tell them to write down 5 to 10 people that they know around them who are above the age of 40 and successful, and see which one of these, talk to them or at least observe which one of these don't have technology, digital marketing. But when I say technology, I mean digital marketing, tech, AI in their business processes. I would have them study what kind of tools can help them. Again, coming from their own lazy mindset, right? What type of tools can help their processes, can help them be more efficient. And if we go into certain examples, I can go on about this, and then go up to them and tell them, hey, this is what I have for you. This will help you save X hours of your time, your business, XYZ employees' time, and or help you make more money through this technique. Can I try this out with you? In the start, try it out with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. If you try it out on 5 people, let's say a month each, 2 months each, yes, you're wasting some time and you might be successful on the last one, the fifth one. But once you show this to one person, those are your advocates for long-term business ownership, for long-term clientele. So if somebody comes up to me blank like this, I would say look up to your uncles, your neighbors, your this and that, wherever you are, and see who's that person who you can help like this. And then, keep trying that till you are successful.
Yeah. So then, okay, so you tried it out on a couple of people. How do you transition then from I tried it out from a couple people, I got one person to like it. How do you transition that to like more structure into getting actual people that you probably don't know?
Yeah. Once you get successful use cases, one, you personally become more confident. Two, again, coming from the lazy ambitious mindset, what part of this can be trickle down to somebody else in terms of delegation. So you'll always have, your mind working. Okay, if I get too many clients, how do I delegate? That's very important. And that can be a proper learning curve. You can't do it perfectly. It has to be a learning curve. But doing that in the right way. And three, making sure that you are identifying the right type of opportunities consistently, which can be some trial and error. Yes, I've done these two good apps. I've done these two good clienteles and two good use cases, but there's none more in the industry. I don't know any more people in the industry. So what do? I go out and do marketing. I go out and knock some more doors. I go out and try email marketing, social media marketing, SEO, all these techniques. A lot of them might fail. That's okay. One thing that clicks, double down on that, focus on that. I've personally tried everything in the marketing playbook. And now I know the couple of things that work for my industry and my type of clientele. And I'm doubling, tripling, 10xing on those things only. So I think a lot of marketing efforts that you would do will be trial and error. A lot of delegation, some of the delegation part will be trial and error. And you have to go through that journey. There's no, honestly, real shortcuts to that.
So you talk about, you said you figured out a couple of things that works for you. What works for you that maybe you think could cross industries?
I would say in a lot of services industries that are highly competitive, my main money making thing is my services company, right? Tech services. A lot of services are saturated, especially high ticket ones. They don't work very well with outbound methods. Yes, if you're selling a small ticket item, you're selling a small coaching item, a small service, it might work. But you're selling a high ticket item, 10K plus per client, it's going to be tough to work on an outbound basis. What I've learned is it has to be inbound. So right now, after doing everything in the playbook, what I figured out is one, my own personal connections and referrals from my current clients, which you call technically word of mouth. And secondly is SEO, just ranking on Google in the right way. I've seen these two to work effectively for me. Besides these, I don't think a lot works in my industry, unless you want to play a game of millions, unless you want to invest big, and that's of course possible when only you earn big. So for, mid-sized or bigger companies, that's possible. For smaller companies, under 500 employees of sorts, under a couple of million, around a couple of million, it's not really viable to spend that amount in marketing. So yeah, that's what I figured out for any high ticket services industry.
As a young business, right? Let's say I'm a young business, young entrepreneur, even starting out, right? SEO. I want to do it right. How do I do it right? Because honestly, like I said, a lot of people are using AI to create content, right? Do I just follow the trend and use AI to create content? How do I do this thing right to set myself up for success?
Again, depends on the industry. Some industries, AI generated SEO friendly content can help out. Some industries it cannot. So identify what industry you're in. Simply that means, let's say you're in an industry of a lot of tech and marketing people. It's going to be tough to generate good AI content, because everybody's doing that. You're an industry of old manufacturers and wholesalers and distributors and whatnot. In the more traditional industry, you have more chances of getting good content through AI, which is SEO friendly. You cannot blindly trust AI content ever. It has to be an active effort. There has to be actively time spent on it. SEO is one marketing effort that can never be completely automated. You always have to have your eyes and ears open. Even if you have somebody hired, you need to have a check on them. The funny part about SEO is mostly it will just tell you the number of visits, the number of clicks, the impressions. Very rarely, unless you have the right mechanism, it will tell you actual sales. So it's tough to identify, unlike other marketing tools, right? You run ads, you know your sales. You run any social media campaign, you don't know your sales. You know your output. SEO can be very tricky to navigate. I value my SEO because I don't have a lot of other techniques. I know most of my stuff is coming from SEO because I'm not doing anything else. So it's an active effort. If you're doing it yourself, identify if your industry is okay with AI generated content. Again, has to be done in an active way, not blindly. And for some industries, it's not possible for a starter to do SEO themselves because it's so technical. You have to go out and hire somebody technical do it for you. So I think first step is identifying if you can even do it yourself in your industry, or do you want somebody else to take it on. Um, and that can be an interesting discovery to do, even, and the simple way of doing that, I feel, is just going and searching for others who are doing stuff that you are doing and seeing how they're ranking, where they're ranking, how many are ranking. Is it big companies, small companies, what sort of effort they're putting in on their on page SEO. So there's a whole process to it.
Yeah. So how do you find out about that? Like how do you find out, oh, okay, I can't do this myself? Is that trial and error?
No, not really. It doesn't have to be, trial and error can be for anything, but doesn't have to be. Let's say you are a shoe product person, right? You created a product for traveling with shoes and stuff. So simply Google what else exists in the market. Do you see 2 people doing it, or do you see 20 people doing it? Whoever is doing it needs to have good SEO for them to rank. So when you see somebody on the list and you see there's a small or big company, you have to go on their website, what sort of content they have, how many pages they have, are they producing blogs or no, how does their social media look, how much engagement they have on their website, client reviews they have. All these are things you have to actively make a list and note down. And if you see most of the number is a lot. I have 50 people showing who are doing good work and they're in this product line. They have big websites and a lot of data on their websites. They're constantly posting blogs. Their social media looks great. That's indicators for not try to do it yourself. If there's already a lot of them happening, a lot of them doing out there and doing good work, it's going to be tough for you as a non-technical SEO person to try to compete with them. So I would not recommend going that route. Hire somebody, hire a racer who can race that, or run that horse, and not yourself. So yeah. And if you see the other way around, it's less people. You think they are smaller size companies. You see the websites look average. They're not out of the world. You see social media is pretty okay. Then yeah, jump into it. Try it yourself. You might be able to do a good job. Trying to outcompete those people.
Yeah. What's your take on ads? Like paying for ads. What's your take on that for new businesses starting out? When is it appropriate to actually, because honestly, if you're on social media, right, people always, like I said, hey, Facebook ads, I can help you with Facebook ads and make money, Google ads. And when would you advise, small businesses to actually start paying for ads?
I think, like a lot of other techniques, ads are good when the iron is hot. What I mean by that is that don't try to start off your business or base your business on ads. It has to be based on other stuff. Ads are dying down. It's a very common known phenomena that ads are dying down
Oh,
because a lot
really?
of yeah, that's a very across most industries, at least 80%, I would say, ads are dying down. The returns you used to get from ads are not same for anyone in the world.
Right,
Across
because it's too expensive.
yeah, because there's more people trying to use this shortcut, right? Again, more lazy ambitious people trying to do this. Hey, I have a good product. I'm gonna start off with ads. Just start running ads.
Blast it
No,
on Facebook.
yeah, no. I personally and a lot of other people don't even click on sponsored ads on Google. I'm like, okay, this person is paying for it. I don't want it. Go to number 3, go to number 4, go to the first one who's not paying for it. Because that's actual validation, right? I think there's a good combination of non-ad spend and ad spend that you can have based on your industry. And again, that is specific to industries. But you have to make the iron hot. What I mean by that is you have to have, let's say I run an ad on an Instagram page or a Facebook page that has 5 posts and 20 people following it, only my family or whatever. People are not gonna like that. That's not good validation. Build it up, spend some time, do it organically. Once you think that is not working out, then your go-to can be ads, but that also in the right way. What is the goal of the ad? That's very, very important. You cannot always sell through ads. depending on industry. Sometimes it's just getting people on your product, getting people on your service, getting people to know about the actual type of service that we discussed, right? They don't know about influencer marketing. So your ad can be just informational about influencer marketing, not even your product. I think ads are dying down. You need to put in more effort organically. There's still a place for ads if done in the right way, in a good combination.
Cool.
Yeah.
What would you tell people, whether they're young, starting out, career person, trying to make the transition? Like, what would you say, like your top 3, 5 things would you tell people, about entrepreneurship and succeeding and lasting in this space? Because a lot of people can start. Everyone can start, right? But what does it take in your mind, the top 3 to 5 things, like I said, to actually succeed in this thing and make a career out of it?
Um, I'll start with you only live once. That mentality. Whatever you feel like doing, there's no way you cannot try doing it. I personally, for me, the biggest failure is regret. If I regret something, if I regret not doing it, that is when I think I've failed. And I think for a lot of people, if you take stories and talk to older people, it always comes down to, oh, I wish I did it this way, that regret factor. So I think personally, what I think when I'm starting something is, will I regret it later on if I don't? So that's number one. Um, Believe in yourself. You can always come back to what you're doing. Take the jump. You won't regret it later. That's already a win. You're winning already by starting. Number two is surrounding yourself with the right people. I think that's very, very important. In a lot of different environments, we mix our social network with our professional network. What happens is, because of that, we fall into this comfort zone where we find it too tough to make a decision that is not too tough if you do it in this circle, in the professional circle. I'm selling my company. I am shifting my career. I am launching a new feature. I am launching a new company. This will not be too tough or considered too abnormal if you're doing it amongst people who are consistently doing it. If you're doing it amongst people who are not, it will feel like, oh my God, it's a very big task. It's a very big leap of faith. So surrounding yourself in the right people, 10 abnormal people will make your abnormal things seem normal because you're around them. By abnormal, I think I mean outliers or things that are different than what normal people do around you. So surround yourself with the right people. That right support system is very, very important. That also leads to my third and most important thing, which is the misinformation part. What are you absorbing? What to take in, what to crop out in terms of absorbing information, and how to process and manufacture action from that. That's very, very important. Um, if you want to start a solar company, follow 20 solar people. There's no point following a tech entrepreneur if you're starting a solar company, etc., etc. I can go on. So I feel that is very, very important. These are my top three. If I had to add one more on top of it, that is a bit more technical, is the building and selling together part. Whenever you're starting, try to build and sell together. Even if you're a big risk taker, you have a lot of family money, savings, whatever, you're a perfectionist, it will work out better if you take actual feedback from others. If you actually launch something, if you get some validation, people refer to as MVP, as minimum viable product. I refer to it as minimum validated product. Get your product validated from the market, not only your friends and family, random people. Can be 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, depending on your product. But go out there, get some validation, try to sell outside your circle. It will give you so much more insight while you're building. So yeah, I think these will be my top four. If I had to, write them down.
That's good. That's good. I just thought of this, and I wanted to ask from someone, who's successfully being an entrepreneur right now. If young entrepreneur come into the game, right? As soon as you start making some money, the temptation is going to be there, right, to spend it. What is your advice around money in entrepreneurship?
Yeah. If I'm being honest, that's one part I'm trying to learn better myself. Financial, financial, financial planning. Earning money and then managing money is two different things. We've seen a lot of athletes earn good money and then be broke later on. So I think one for every problem, the first step is to identify the problem. Do you have a problem with making money or managing money? I think I'm improving. I'm probably 30% there, 40% there, but I have a problem with managing money. Okay, now we try to solve it. What I figured out is try to divest across different industries. Don't try to stay in your lane. I spent around $250 to $300,000 last year alone, 2024, just investing in tech products and tech companies, tech startups. I invest in small startups, right? The same people who I mentor and advise, I invest with them. So now what I learned was that I have a lot of my eggs in the same basket. If, let's say, for whatever reason, there's a global shutdown of internet, all my investments are down. So I'm not spreading out my money in the right way. Then I learned how to divest in different industries. Now I'm investing in a luxury boutique, a pillow company, a e-mobility company, etc., along with my own investments going into real estate and other stuff. So I think that's one big learning for me, to divest in the right way and to put your money in money-making tools, not only um, high risk and long-term reward tools, into money-making tools. Your money should be working for you. I'm listening to the Rich Dad Poor Dad these days, and that's all it talks about, right? How to make your money work for you. So yeah, that's one other learning that I have. Surround yourself with the right people. Again, it comes down to that. If you have people who all have Lamborghinis, the first thing you would want to do is buy a fancy car. You know. So yeah, surround yourself with the right people.
Facebook and Instagram, man, that's the temptation. That's what drives a lot of people, right? So I try to give sound advice on my show, right? Like if you're chasing entrepreneurship to keep up with what you see on social media, you're never gonna succeed because you're competing with scammers.
Yeah, and take a step back, right? If the right people exist on a social media, it's not too bad. Get the right information in. Yeah. Unfollow those dudes with those fancy cars and right in the start of their career and shit like that.
Yeah, you're competing with people who just know how to take really good videos and they're driving you crazy. Make you think. Listen, man, this was awesome. Any final thoughts, advice you want to give to somebody who's listening, to you on my audience?
Because your show has been around sports and entrepreneurship and a lot of things that sports brings to us, and we didn't get a chance to talk about it. I think one thing I would encourage everyone to do at any part of their life, for themselves, their kids, is jump into sports, jump into competitive sports. It's never too late. There's over 50. It's going to be a half an hour more, but if I have to summarize it, I went to the best school. I grew up around a lot of successful people. I luckily had, good people always giving good advice. I traveled countries, everything I had right, but still 80 to 90% of my learnings come from sports. And there's so many things, right? Again, it's going to be a long conversation, but the biggest one for me is not giving up. There's always another day. It's not giving up. Keep doing what you're doing. Trust the process, etc., etc. So I thought I jumped into it a little later than I should have. I started playing competitive sports a bit after around high school. And I was good enough to play earlier. I just never, my parents didn't, and I never paid enough attention to it, because I was like, am I good enough? Can I do it? I didn't think of all the other benefits that come with it, all the benefits that they're going to be those benefits, even if you don't be successful. Yeah. So yeah, if you're 50, jump into over 50s league. If you're 40, jump into over 40s league, whatever, for your kids. Yes, they can follow their heart, do whatever they want, but try your best to put them in competitive sports, where they're actually going out and competing with others. And that can be one sport over the period of time, or multiple sports in different durations of your life. But I think that is a gold mine. That is very, very at any part of your life, very, very beneficial.
Man, that's another hour conversation right there. You're right. And you're right. I make that correlation all the time in this podcast about sports and just real life in general and entrepreneurship. It's like I did one episode, I think it was last New Year's, or maybe the year prior to that. I was like, the mentality you have to have, even if you're not playing professional sports, but the mentality that you have to be good at sports, right? And team sports, it's kind of the same mentality that you got to have if you're going to succeed in entrepreneurship or succeed in life. Like, to be good at sports, like, you got to believe that you are really good. Like, if I play basketball a lot, right? And if you're going to succeed in basketball, you have to believe that when you have the ball in your hands, like, nobody is going to stop you from making this shot, right? And nobody can stop you from winning. And that same mentality is what drives you to be successful in entrepreneurship and really all aspects of life. Is, I am good enough. You have to talk yourself out of this mentality, right? Like, I am good enough to do whatever I want to do, right? I'm not gonna stop. I'm not gonna give up. And I'm not gonna win. So I'm glad you brought this up, and to bring it full circle, like, like sports is not just something we watch and enjoy, but it the mentality can really be a driver to success, not just in entrepreneurship, but in life.
For sure, man. It's a great ending note.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I appreciate you hopping on. Over an hour. Hopefully folks stayed by, got some good information. I know I did. If folks have any questions, want to reach out to you, learn more about SEO or whatever, how can folks get in touch with you?
I personally look at my business Instagram a lot. I mean, I have my LinkedIn and I have my website and everything, but I personally look at my Insta mostly, and my team helps me manage other platforms more. So I think that's the best source. I'm always looking for people to help.
What's your business Instagram?
It's called Build with Babar. Simple, Build with Babar, and I don't think there's going to be any other one out there like with a name like this. But yeah, I'm looking for always people to help out, add value. I believe in that coming back 10x to me. So I'm always a believer of adding free value, and it's going to come back to me.
Sounds good. Well, appreciate you, man. Thanks for hanging out with us, dropping the knowledge. We'll definitely be in touch. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody, for listening, watching, YouTube, wherever you're listening. And I'll catch you guys next time. For Babar, I'm Mike. You guys be good. Sports of the real shit. I'm going to catch you guys next time. Peace.
Thank you.
I'm going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Rihanna's a shot. I'm going straight to the top.